I'm John Stewart, president of the Florida Bar, and I'm here with my good friend Eugene Pettis, past president of the Florida Bar from 2013, 2014, my memory serves me. And
Correct.
President Pettis, thank you for joining us today to do this video for our first ever annual virtual convention.
Thank you so much, President Stewart. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I just wanted to, take some time to make sure, we introduce you to the few members who may not know you, and you have a long and storied career. I thought we might talk a little bit about, what you've seen in your career, not only in your time as president, but, over the span in terms of some of the changes in the profession that you see, whether positively or negatively.
Certainly. Before we get started, I would like to say thank you, President Stewart, for your service. One of the things we say among presidents and former presidents of the bar is that there's always some surprises in every term. You can't plan for them. And I think your year will go down as a definition of that old adage. And the way you've handled our profession and how we operate within a pandemic literally is a once in 100-year occurrence, and you need to be commended for the adaptability and the flexibility, and more importantly, the leadership that you have seen. With regard to your question of the changes that I've seen, I started practicing in 1985. At that point in time, I think we had around 36,000 lawyers. We are now at, I lose count, but we're over 105, 107,000 lawyers. In just a short period of time since 2014, when I left office, I left at about 98,000. So you can see, since I've been gone, we've almost increased another 10,000 lawyers. Those numbers are so significant because of the fact that the legal career is a long career. Unlike a sports career where you have a few years and then you're out of the league, people are around practicing law for 40 years or more. So there's not as many slots opened up for the thousands of people that are coming in. And I think that force is in play. I think you see within the big law a consolidation. More and more firms are merging, both on the statewide level, on the national level, and globally. That's a different occurrence than it was when I started my practice, and even more today than it was when I was president. And secondarily, there are less places where young lawyers coming out of school can have jobs, and it's necessitating more of them coming out and having to hang up their own shingle. So the dynamic of what we're seeing is different, and I think it's important that we continue to study how we can be of assistance to both sectors, those that are in the merging firms and those that are in the solo small firm practices, because it makes up who we are as a profession.
Well, I think as presidents, we come in all wanting just to do right by our members and by the bar. You're certainly one that's left a pretty spectacular legacy that touches on really a lot of the things you talked about, particularly about reaching out to our members. And, I think one of the biggest is Leadership Academy, which really was your brainchild, which you helped foster. Obviously it's no secret, and it took far too long with it, but it was critical that you were the first African-American president of the bar. And I wonder if you can just talk about, the tremendous success that Leadership Academy has had, in your mind, how you envisioned it, how it's working. I mean, I'll just put in a quick plug for my annual convention committee chair, Vivian Cortez Hodds, who's a Leadership Academy graduate, who's had to plan an entire annual convention for 9 months, and then in the last 6 weeks make it all virtual, which was more than any volunteer should have to take on. So, can you sort of just discuss a little bit about, your idea, and then, how I hope pleased you are with how you've seen it evolve over time?
Certainly. We have all been talking about diversity and inclusion for as far back as your career goes and deep into my career. So as I sat looking at our bar in my early years as a Board of Governors member, the conversation was continuing. We were having an annual meeting to talk about diversity. we were moving the needle a little bit, but not as much as I thought. And the reason I didn't think we were really having a major or lasting impact is because it's one thing to talk about it once a year. It's another thing to give the people the skills that are necessary to be successful. The Academy was born out of a belief after I traveled the state and the country, looking at what are the skills that are necessary for a successful lawyer, a successful servant of the community. Communication skills, networking skills and knowledge, strategic planning. Those are just three basic, how to operate operationally, how to navigate a meeting, how to build relationships, and how to know the who's who and where the centers of power are in our state. The curriculum of the Academy, as you know, was built around some of those pillars. And I thought if we could bring people in, teach them those skill sets, whether they are going to continue in leadership of the bar, or whether they're going to go back to their communities as informed leaders, as individuals that are proud and knowledgeable of their profession, but individuals that are prepared to serve. We have created a win-win. And what we've seen really is that dream come into reality. As of yesterday, I spoke with Arnell Brian Willis, and we have up to 8 judges that have grown out of the Leadership Academy. I can't tell you, President Stewart, some of the emails that I received just as recent as 2 weeks ago, saying another young man who's applying for a judgeship saying, I was in your Leadership Academy class too. I've had judges to get on board and say, if it wasn't for your Leadership Academy, I'd have never had the confidence to step up. That tells us that the people are out there with the dreams and aspirations, but we have to build this confidence to really open up the door and make place at the table of opportunity for others. And I think the Academy has done that and continues to do that, upwards of 300,000 fellows thus far and going strong. One of my former associates is in the current class that's coming in this month. So I think that we have created a lasting pathway for people to, one, get enhance their skills, learn lifetime skills that are somewhat the soft skills, but are essential skills for success, and to bring all of us together as one bar, one humanity for one cause. And that's the foundation of the Leadership Academy.
Well, it's definitely working. I think the beauty of the way that you designed it, to me, as you described a little bit, is not just to build leaders for within the Florida bar, but leaders within the community. And hopefully we can keep that portion of it blossoming. We won't get into politics or the legislative session or the legislature, but I know as of next session, we'll only have one lawyer in the Senate. And I know we need to work on getting more lawyer leaders back in Tallahassee. And I think your Leadership Academy is one way to do that. To have the vision for that is amazing, which, is a legacy by itself. But of course, that wasn't enough for you. You had also with 3 or 4 other presidents in consultation, which is no easy task by itself, had the vision for Vision 2016, which was the bar's 3-year study on the future practice of law, which started your year in 2013. And I wonder if you can just touch on that a little bit, in whatever way. I know it was an enormous study, but what you see that has come out of that. I know that, like everything within the bar, it's kind of had spurts and fits, and it's been great progress, and it's stalled a little bit. But in my opinion, I had a small role in it on the technology side. I think some of that has paid dividends for us in this challenging time. I think we need to get back to that. But really, to my question, you were one of the major visionaries for Vision 2016, and how do you see how that's played out for us, having done that now, completed that 4 years ago?
John, I don't think it's a coincidence that the person who chaired the subgroup along with President Coleman, the subgroup for technology, happens to be the president during the year that I think technology has taken one giant step for mankind through this pandemic, and the need to move forward operationally as a profession. So I think you played more than a small role, and you readied yourself for an occasion that you didn't know was even in your future with what you've done over the past 4 to 5 months. But the legal profession is very slow in change. I think the world around us, whatever industry you want to point to, got to technology advancements before we did. You have the banking profession, you have every profession you look at. We're pretty old guard, old school. This is the way we do it. And when I was president, speaking to judges and the judges' conferences, trying to get them to utilize video conferencing so that lawyers would not have to get in their cars and drive down to Miami, taking me an hour and a half to get there for a 5-minute hearing, charging my client 3 hours for 5 minutes worth of work. I got pushback. They were not ready for it. There were various excuses. But the pandemic hit, and a seismic wave hit our profession. And I can't tell you the number of judges. I give compliments to our Chief Judge, Jack Tudor, here in Broward, and there are many others around the state that have utilized those instruments very effectively. And I don't think we'll ever go back 100% to our old ways. The Vision 2016 looked at not just technology, but another thing that we must confront, and that's access to justice. We have to, if we're going to preserve our profession, find a way that justice and access is not just there for the few, the ones that can afford the expensive attorneys to come in and fight for them, but is readily available and accessible to all individuals, irrespective of the social economic status they may have in our society. If we could truly make it available equally to the least of us, I think that's when we fulfill what our purpose really is as lawyers and as the legal profession. And we still have significant work to do in that area. That was one of the areas we looked at, along with education, as well as who is able to practice our trade. All of those are still critical issues. I commend the bar to continue to look at those areas within your strategic plan. But I think we've made headway. I think certain things happen in life that speeds up the advancement, and we're living in one now in the technology realm of how law will be practiced henceforth.
Yeah, so I agree. We've been working hard to get the acceleration of technology within the profession, and the acceleration in the last quarter has exceeded anything we've done in the last 5 years. I think we would have chosen another path for that acceleration to happen. But as you pointed out, I mean, not just the Chief Judge in Broward, but Chief Justice candidate has made it very clear that he does not intend to unravel the improvements, frankly, in access to the courts via video conferencing, et cetera, the areas that you were talking about 7 years ago. He recognizes that they're working and plans to leave them implemented until rules can be crafted, at least some of them that seem to be working, until rules can be crafted to make them permanent. So I think it's positive. I think everybody recognizes that that progress should not be unwound. And as we get kind of to the close of our interview, I think as progress in an area that you touched on already a little bit in the area of diversity, I asked you to chair a special committee, and a lot of our members may not know that the president has the authority under our standing board policies to appoint non-voting seats to the board so that we can have the voice of the underrepresented in the event that the board's not representative of our population. And, I don't think we'd ever looked at that policy, and I asked you to chair a committee, and it's a challenging task because everybody wants a seat at the table, and, it's not manageable to have a seat for everybody all the time. So one, I appreciate you for taking on that task. report, which is available, is fantastic and thoughtful, and something that the board is still working through. But I wonder if you would just talk a little bit about that piece of what you did for the bar this year. I mean, you continue to give back, and we thank you for that. But I think it was an important look. The policy may be small, but I think the conversation was an important look that you handled very deftly.
Certainly, and I appreciate you calling upon me to assist you in that endeavor. I think the broader takeaway from looking at Standing Policy 1.20, which allows the president, he or she, to appoint special appointments, is it stopped us to look at who we are. Who we are today is different than who we were 5 years, 10 years, and we should always look at who we are and whether or not we are hearing the voices of our membership. And that's an important thing, because when you get in the bubble of leadership, you sometimes get the false practice of thinking you know and hear what it is you need to hear within your little ranks. And it's very refreshing to make sure you get out and listen to people that could bring different issues to the table, different perspectives. And that's what we did through a very able committee that you appointed. We looked at how we can refresh to make sure that we're not just addressing our legacy alliances that we have with some of our bar organizations, but who are the new communities that we need to make sure we're touching, whether it's gay and lesbian, whether it's veterans, whether it's public sector lawyers, whether it's lawyers that just haven't had a voice but are significant in numbers. And I think you looking at this freshly, and President-elect Foster Morales will continue the advancement and so on and so forth. I think it's important that we recognize that a part of what's going on in our society right now is the failure to listen, but not just to listen, but to hear. I mean, you can listen to somebody, but you're really not hearing them. I think your effort is an example of, let's look at ourselves, let's go out into the town hall meeting that we held, and let's hear from our members and what they want to see from their board and their president. And that listening process and hearing process is important to make sure we're on track to make sure that our board and our agenda is reflective of the whole. And as you know, I just believe to my core that we are better when we stand as one body, reflective of all of us, one humanity, one bar. And that's what your effort, I think, has contributed to that goal.
Well, I appreciate your work on that. I think that if nothing else, it gives really strong direction to the presidents that will follow in the path that they need to make those appointments, to make, as you pointed out, us hear from our constituents better. And I think that's critical. So I thank you for that. As I don't think most presidents come in expecting to leave a legacy. I think we'd be hard pressed to find a president that has left a stronger legacy than yours. So I appreciate your time. As the senior president on this call, you get to have the last word. So, I just want to thank you for joining me. I also want to thank you not only for everything you've done for the bar, but everything you've done for me, not just this year, but for the many years together that we were on the board, et cetera. And appreciate your time. But you get to conclude our interview today.
Well, I appreciate it, President Stewart. In a few days, we'll be welcoming you to the club of the past presidents. And it's a great, I miss, obviously, the platform, but I hold true to a part of our creed of professionalism, and that is to do public good. And I don't think that's a presidential term. I think that's a lifetime. So I am as committed today as always, and as I know you are, of doing public good. And there's so many places, so many ways that we as lawyers, we as past presidents, we as a profession can do public good. And I look all around us at things that are really, really tense, but it's lawyers who've always calmed the waves and led the way through our advocacy, through our ability to bring people together. And that's what our challenge is today, and that's what our challenge will be always. So I look forward to joining you in other endeavors, and I truly, sincerely thank you for your leadership. It's a sacrifice, and I think you were the man for the moment, and I appreciate you answering the call.
Thank you, past President Pettis, for joining us, and look forward to seeing you virtually at the convention.
Absolutely. Thank you, and look forward to it.